Well, Mooney, I'm going to jump right into this. I know we have very limited time with this Just Talk with Sam podcast. Thank you for being on the podcast. This is awesome. However, before we get started with every podcast, I don't know if you know this or not, we got this thing here that we call the over the top introduction, mainly because we happy to have guests like this, and I'm a firm believer in giving people their flowers when they're sitting right in front of me. Is that okay with you?
That's okay with me.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. My next guest is an actor, singer, and a prince. Seriously, I mean, this man is royalty. Shout out to the Cambodian royal family. As well, he is well on his way to being Hollywood royalty in his debut performance in 1660 Vine, currently on Amazon Prime right now and coming to all on TV on demand platforms, including iTunes and YouTube early 2025. Khemuni Norodom, welcome to the podcast. What do I call you? Do I say what do I call you? Prince, Your Highness? What do I do?
I love just going by Muni.
Muni, my man, for real. You are a member of the Cambodian royal family, a
Yes.
prince, being
Yeah.
specific here.
Yeah.
Studied in different countries. You had the upbringing of, well, royalty. What was it that made you get bit by the acting bug?
My grandfather is huge was hugely involved in the arts. During his time, he composed tons of music. He directed films, starred in films. My parents were in some of his films as well. And so I think, I would love to say that it was genetic. And a lot of my family members are also involved in the arts. So the arts was in my blood from a very young age.
Okay. Hey, that's dope, man. One of the things about this is your acting debut, and what a debut. I mean, if we're just being 100% serious with this, you crushed it, my man. What
And
led you to this project?
just it came in my email like every other project, and I auditioned for it. And but the part of Danny and the movie 1669, it really felt very contemporary, and also it dealt with a lot of ongoing like social media issues that we currently still deal with. And I wanted to, I wanted to take my whack at it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to word my next questions very carefully, not to give away spoilers of the project, obviously. But your character, Danny, is doing that thing we all have to do, figure out what life is like after high school.
Hmm.
I'm curious, a person like yourself, did you have those same feelings growing up where I hate to say it, and forgive me if I'm being rude, you could
No, no,
just
no.
kind of coast. You could just be
Yeah,
like,
look,
yeah, I'm
you're
good.
you're so right. No, I think that there's a little bit of privilege in that sense. And not all the way, but I think my parents still had an expectation of me going into some sort of field, typical of my mom to, she wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer at, like, this was like years ago. But going into the arts, my parents were fully very supportive of it.
Mhm.
And when I didn't really know what I wanted to do towards the last 2 years of high school, I think I could have gone into advertising or architecture, but I definitely caught the acting bug towards the last 2 years, and found it to be very cathartic and expressive. And told my dad I want to go to LA, and never looked back since. So
All right, it's cool that you're in a very supportive field. Now, I'm very curious, as did you do any research as Danny? Because I gotta be honest, and I'm just gonna be upfront with you. Watching this and doing this, it's a very surreal thing. So it's
mhm.
like you identify a lot of challenges and stuff that I do want to as a content creator.
Yeah.
So did you do any homework? Did you hang out with podcasters or YouTubers or anything like that?
To be honest, I don't think I did, but I didn't really have to, because moving to, because I lived Danny's experience. You know, I moved to Los Angeles at 18. I was naive to the whole entertainment industry, you know, and I think and very green. And I think that was also during a time when Instagram and Vine and YouTube and TikTok was still on the rise, and it wasn't what it is today. And so every day since I moved here, it's a constant battle trying to find what your brand is, what your identity is. It still is. And but I was also surrounded by tons of content creators, and I was able to witness firsthand what that experience is like for them. And then also on the other part of the spectrum, I have two young nieces who are starting to get into social media, and I see how that sort of affects them and how they're so worried about their brand at like 12 years old, you know.
You're
So
right.
this, yeah, so I think everyone deals with this on a daily.
Because you nailed it. This is kind of like a question, comment, quimit, something in the middle. But you
Mhm.
nailed it because there is this gap. And I'm talking from experience here where you're you want to show your real side, but you have to do what got you there in the first place. Like in my case, just to be frank, it was a lot of dick and fart jokes. However, it just was. However, after years of doing this, it was just sort of like, okay, I want to be myself, or I want to talk to people, or I want to do a bunch of stuff like that. But it was just sort of like I noticed that struggle breaking that to become myself, which shouldn't seem like a hard thing, but you nailed it in this because you're like this person, fish out of water. You don't know what's going on. How do I word this without giving anything away? You know what it takes to get online, but you don't know what it is to stay there or at least to transition to be
Transition.
who you actually are.
1,000%. If we're going to talk about the royal part, I think part of being this is all still new to me, like especially the recognition of being royal. Like I grew up I had a very private life. No one really knew who I was. Only now coming here, moving to Hollywood, getting into the industry, there's a little bit more recognition and a little bit more so-called fame. And I have to acknowledge, where I come from. I have to acknowledge my legacy and my heritage. I can't deny that because that's a part of who I am. And I think that is a message that is told throughout the film. You can't necessarily deny what got you to the place that you're in, but that doesn't mean you should stay there either. It's what you do with your platform that really matters at the end of the day.
And one thing about this film as a whole, I noticed a lot of the characters, sort of Danny, but not so much Danny, struggles with anonymity because it's sort of like, oh my God, I gave too much. I just want to be a dude. I just want to be a regular person walking down the street. Now, I'm looking at you. Have you ever had it? You say you had a private life, but anonymity, do you still have it? Do you put on disguises? How does that work?
I definitely have that living in Los Angeles, but I went back home a week ago. I was there for 2 weeks, and that was the first time I started experiencing a shift and being acknowledged, and especially with the promotion of this film, it definitely put me a little bit more on the map than before. And so, I think it's a weird thing because I also am a musician and an artist, and trying to do music and keep some sort of mystique or anonymity, as you say,
Yeah.
it's very difficult. Um, it's
Yeah. I would imagine. It's kind of
yeah,
hard to be a regular Joe when I know what you had for breakfast this morning.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of us like to, I don't want to say overshare, but we use our social medias and we do share a lot about our lives. Not everything, but like you said, sometimes I'll know what you're having for breakfast.
Exactly. Um, Here's another thing. Like when your character Danny becomes, and I'm wording this correctly not to give away anything, the moral compass in this whole new land that he's in. in a place where it's not a lot of that, how do you balance that? Because Danny himself is hiding something, which kind of fuels that moral compass if you think about it.
Yeah.
You see how I did that without talking about it? Yeah, that's how you do it.
To be honest, I don't know if I have an answer because that's something I'm constantly dealing with on a daily. I learned a lot through being Danny. I learned a lot about having a moral compass and how, you know, sometimes your secrets can like drive you far one way, and it's very important to keep your moral compass. It's very important to keep your fire, your passion. Um, but it's an ongoing thing. I think I've said this multiple times, but I think to kind of go live through your life day by day and surround yourself with good support. And that's hard to know if someone's truly being supportive, but I think you do. I think you do know when that support is there in your life because I think we're abundant in it, you know.
Okay, that makes sense. What do you want people to take from your performance in this film?
I think to not to sort of take the pressure of yourself, take it off of yourself when it comes to having a brand or an identity, and to sort of be patient with yourself
Okay.
and not expect everyone to always understand you.
All right. Well, Mooney, we're up against it, but I do have to ask, almost obligatory. What's next on the horizon?
Next, I've got some new music coming soon. Working on the release, working on an EP. So that should starting in the new year, you'll be seeing a lot of that stuff. So yeah.
Well, Mooney, I know we didn't have a long time, but it was a fun time. You're welcome back to the podcast whenever you want. You can chop it up. You could be a regular dude if that's
I
appealing to
would
you.
love that. I would love that. Thank you so
That's
much.
a regular dude. We watch the game. We're chilling. That's just what we're doing.
That's amazing. Thank you. I love the Believe poster behind you too, by the way.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Hold on. Well, I did it the wrong way, but
There we go.
yeah,
There we
yeah.
go.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Mooney, and congrats and just the best on all your future endeavors, my man.
Cheers. You too.
All right. Thanks. Have a
Bye.
great one.
You too.